On Pentecost Sunday, gunmen opened fire on worshipers and detonated explosives at St. Francis Catholic Church in Ondo State, Nigeria, killing 40 and injuring 87 more. Why were these Catholics targeted, and why has there been an increase in attacks on and kidnappings of Christians in Nigeria of late? Joining me now to discuss this and much more, Nigerian priest, professor at John Carroll University, and founder of Gratia Vobis Ministries, Father Maurice Emelu. Father, the town of Awu in Ondo State, where this attack took place, is a relatively quiet area. It's about 200 miles southwest of the Nigerian capital. Why would a group of gunmen target Catholic worshipers during Mass in this town?
Ray, please, thank you so much for bringing me on your show. And I have to say first that my sympathy to the town, to the people of Owo in the southwest of Nigeria is a Yoruba tribe, and the whole community, the whole state, and the Catholic community, the Diocese of Ondo, our sympathies to you for this barbaric act. But what I could say, based on our investigations and eyewitness account and the context of what happened and what is happening in Nigeria right now, I could give you some context that will provide evidence to why. One is the political situation. The way, from our investigation, I think what has happened is more political, but carried out through the shade of religious target. And I say that for three reasons. The first, that particular part of the country is a Yoruba tribe, and that part of the country is, I would say, probably 50% Christians and then Muslims, and then there are a few minorities like the African traditional religionists. And that part of the world lives peacefully in the country. If you come to Owo in particular, the town that this happened, you have Christians and Muslims and native religionists living side by side, in fact, in the same families, peacefully, happily. The governor of the state is a Christian. The wife of the governor of the state is a Catholic. But they have pretty good, peaceful environment in that place. So why would it happen now? Well, since the past 2 years, there have been some sort of migration from, like I would say, herdsmen. We call them Fulani, from the Fulani tribe. Herdsmen that travel down to the south in order to look for greener fields for their cattle. And they have come in large numbers to those parts of the country and other parts of the country. And there has been a sort of a correlation between increased violence and their migration to those places. And they don't stay on the streets, they go right into the forest, and from the forest, some of the native community members accuse them of, it's alleged that many of them abuse people, cause a lot of violence. They are like marauders who go and sort of pillage the whole place. And then as a response, the governor of the state decided to come up with policies to flush them out of the forest and to look for proper documentation and to increase security. So some people are alleging that this attack is a reprisal of the government's policy. Why Owo? Owo is the native town of the governor. And the Catholic Church, St. Francis Xavier, is one of the most vibrant parishes in the whole country. In fact, that Mass, it's estimated that average of about 1,200 or 1,300 people must have been at that Mass. So it's a very iconic place. So it's like hitting at the heart of Yoruba land, hitting at the heart of this community where people are living peacefully and trying to stir the pot in order to create tension and political tension in the state.
Yeah, on Monday, Bishop Jude Arogundade of the Diocese of Ondo had this to say about the massacre. He said it is quite unbelievable that somebody would come and the intention was to kill everybody in that church. Those running out, they were being shot from outside. those who were inside were being shot from inside. They took 2 dynamites to blow up the altar, then to the sanctuary. This kind of desecration can only be done by the evil one. Your thoughts, Father, on what happened here, what the bishop said, and what did you think when you heard of this attack?
I was mortified. I was saddened. I was upset. I was angry. I was depressed. Because as Bishop Jude said, it is barbaric. He said it all. It's barbaric. There is no explanation for this kind of terror. And what is even more upsetting is that even at this point when we are talking, no culprit has been identified. The security agencies have not identified who did this. It does not. I was sharing it with a couple of people. They said, you mean that no person has been found guilty of this, or no culprit has been identified? I say, yes. That tells you the nature of the insecurity, the nature of the pain. There is no closure. It's inexcusable. I think this should be a clarion call for the government, national government and state governments to come together and bring an end to this kind of satanic, devilish oppression.
But you make it sound like it was a political attack, or at least a reprisal, a response to politics. The people in the town of Oa are naturally in a state of shock after this deadly massacre. At least 40 people have been confirmed dead, among them infants and children, and over 87 people have suffered injuries. What are you hearing from the folks on the ground? I mean, they must be in a state of terror.
What I'm hearing from the folks on ground, why I am emphasizing the political side of it, because often we ignore the political undertone that is taking place. And because there are many Christians, non-Catholics, even Muslims who are really mortified by this event as well. So it's not, because one of their strategy, these headsmen, unfortunately, they are Islamic fundamentalists. Some of their plan is to stir up division in the country. And by stirring up division in the country, they can have their leeway into a program of control. But then the particular culprits for this event, we don't know if it is the herdsmen. It's alleged, but we are not sure because they have not owned up to that. So there is no explanation. There is no explanation except to say it's closer to election. They want to create mayhem, cause fear, and then maybe steer the country in a way that is more dark than it is right now.
Father, in a statement following the attack, Nigerian President Buhari had this to say. He said, no matter what, this country shall never give in to evil and wicked people. Only fiends from the netherworld could have done this dastardly act. Now, President Buhari is nearing the end of his 2-year term, his presidency. He was elected on the promise to end insecurity in Nigeria. However, security challenges have only gotten worse under his leadership. At the same time as this attack in Oa, a Catholic priest, a Father Christopher, was kidnapped in another region of the country. A week ago, the head of the Methodist Church in Nigeria was abducted along with 2 other clerics and freed after paying $240,000 in ransom. Now, 2 weeks ago, 2 Catholic priests were kidnapped. They were not released. And in early May, it was reported that Father Joseph Bako, who was kidnapped in March, had been killed by his abductors, Father. What is driving this violence? I mean, you say it's generally peaceful. Doesn't sound peaceful to those of us looking in now.
Thank you so much for pointing out this. The president was elected on the promise of security. 2015, now the situation is worse. You didn't even mention the young Christian girl that was killed last month and burned, and the violence that followed after that. Well, I'm not saying that the whole nation is peaceful, but I'm talking about in the communities, in the families. So it seems to me that there is an outside influence, political influence from outside communities of those communities that are infiltrating the communities. That's what I'm saying. That are infiltrating the communities and trying to stir the pot and cause mayhem and chaos. And that's the political side to it. But the hate is religious. The hate is religious. The spirit of it is hateful, is religious. That's the argument I'm making. And I'm saying that the president is time to act, because the promise is the criteria for measuring the success that he gave us. I don't see it. I don't see the success. I don't see the growth. I think we're going back, way back to the curve.
Well, look, in the last decade, Nigeria has been plagued by Islamic fundamentalist terrorist groups, really. Boko Haram, ISIS has targeted Christians in the country, mostly in the north. Armed gangs operate across this country. I've been reporting on this for years now, Father. But so far, no group has claimed responsibility for this Sunday attack. What kind of protection do the Christians of Nigeria have from these groups? And are local law enforcement and state governors going to do anything to stop these people, these terrorist groups?
It's sad to say there is no clear protection. But I think something has to be done. First, it has to begin with community policing. Policing in Nigeria is centralized, and that's not serving the need better. I think community policing should be something to consider. And the state governments are trying their best, but because their hands are tied also, the police system is national. There is the spirit of fear and fear of reprisals from unknown gunmen in different parts of the country. So it's a frustrating thing happening. But I think this is a decisive time in the history of Nigeria when Nigerians have to take action by themselves because they have to fight. Go and get your PVC, the Permanent Voters Registration Card, to vote the next president that you believe that will change this leadership problem in the country and reduce violence.
Pope Francis sent a telegram conveying his sorrow about this terrible massacre. He said, in commending the souls of the dead to the loving mercy of Almighty God and imploring divine healing and consolation upon the injured and those who are grieving, the Pope prays for the conversion of those blinded by hatred and violence so that they will choose instead the path of peace and righteousness. Your thoughts on the statement, and what should the Vatican be doing now to help the faithful in Nigeria as well as other countries?
I think the Holy Father has laid a very strong foundation for us to think about this issue first, spiritually, the healing that has to take place, calling us to praying for healing. And his invocation is even more, touched me deeply because his invocation is on healing and strength and courage on the other hand. So I see two things happening there. Healing for us. Hate can never be overcome by hate. No matter how sad it is, let's approach it with the spirit of the Christian call of love. But then there should be courage. The courage should and strength to take action, concrete action, political action, religious action, humanitarian action, policy action. Again, concrete action, voting the right people, not the politics of money, not the politics of corruption, but the politics of fighting for the future of this big nation in Africa. So it calls for that healing. It calls for the spirit of love matched with the spirit of courage that the Holy Father is praying and invoking, that we, Nigerians, should take action. But much more, it also calls for a global response. And I think the Vatican is taking a lead in that, in different ways of trying to inform, educate our communities and send help to our communities to build in that path of justice, that path of courage, and healing.
Father, I thank you for being here. Certainly our prayers are with the people in that community who are still suffering, and we still don't have the death count yet. So you can imagine being one of those families and having this happen to you while you're in the middle of a church service. You can follow Father Maurice Emelu on Twitter at Rev Emelu and visit his website, revemelu.com. Thank you, Father.
Thank you. Pray.